Welcome to Confident AF Live, taking your mindset next level to get next year's results today with me, your host, Brandon Foster. Are you a badass peep with big dreams, ready to turn your unrealistic goals into reality? Confident AF Live is the gateway to enormous new opportunities and unlimited possibilities. The unrealistic can suddenly become realistic for you if you believe it. Are you ready to take your dreams and results to the next level? Then stay tuned as we help crack open the door to new ways of impactful thinking and believing about yourself with mindset practices for badass people like you. Confident AF Live starts right now. Hey, boo! Welcome to another episode of Confident AF Live. I'm so excited you are here. I'm just really excited today because today we're going to talk about redefining lazy, being late, and other random things we judge ourselves for. And I actually had one of my coaching clients this last week who said I need a t-shirt. There's been a lot of amazing t-shirt ideas. I will definitely have a shop with a t-shirt that says this, but she says, I feel like this will really resonate with you because she knows I'm from Texas. She knows that I love queso. I drown your judgments in queso. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love that so much. So actually, if you're not following me on Instagram at BrandonRFoster.com, you definitely need to, BrandonRFoster.com is my website. You definitely need to follow that because I did post a story that was hilarious that actually was me at Chewy's with chips and queso. And I put that caption, I drown your judgments in queso. And of course, if you all know, I'm friends with Amanda Francis, and she is a huge queso fiend like I am. And our schedules haven't aligned yet, but we want to hang out and see one another when next time I go to LA. And she offered a maca moment. I don't even know what a maca, whatever moment, but I really feel like we need to have a queso moment is what I really feel like we need to have. The point I'm making with all of this is that I want us to drown these self-judgments in queso today, okay? And I feel like the biggest destroyer of our dreams and opportunities in our life is really not other people. It's really ourselves. In fact, whenever I go to speak in front of a group of badass entrepreneurs, business owners, travel professionals, high-ticket coaches, whoever, whenever I go to speak at these inspirational, encouraging events on what true confidence is, not the kindergarten, I can do it confidence. Whenever I go to speak at these things, one of the things I always ask them is what is the self-talk dialogue that you say to yourself all the livelong day? And I asked them, how long would your relationship with your significant other last if you verbally express those things out loud to that individual? And it never fails. You can hear a pin drop in the room. Everybody's face is like wide-eyed, deer in the headlights, like, oh my goodness, like that would be disastrous. And I actually remember someone who I love to pieces. I remember asking them, because I could just feel the energy. I'm like, what is it that you keep telling yourself all the time? And it was like one of the first times they were really honest with me about how they felt. And this person is one of the funniest people I've ever met in my whole entire life. And I feel like all of the greatest comedians of all time, I feel like this is natural in comedy, is they found comedy as a way to cope with their own trauma, like childhood trauma of how people treated them, trauma of how they treat and talk to themselves. It's like a deflection mechanism, deflection tool. And I remember this person saying, I hate you, you fat fucking retard. And I just thought, like, I just hurt. Like, I hurt so bad because as soon as those words left their mouth, it was like, yeah, that was true. Like I could feel like the truth in the words, like that's how they genuinely felt subconsciously and they hadn't actually verbalized it, which I think before I go any further to this, I just have to be honest that we all have things that we think about ourselves or perspectives about ourselves that we don't want to admit that we actually have. And the truth is, we can't heal those. We can't change those. We can't shift them until we're actually willing to shine a light and be honest about them and say, like, hey, God, this is how I think about myself. Hey, universe, this feels really painful and really, really terrible to think and view about my business or myself or how I attract clients, and I really want help to see this differently. And honesty really is one of the most important things to change your mindset. Be honest about what you are thinking, how what you're thinking is making you feel. And like the idea of affirmations is to cause you to feel good because vibration and energy is what attracts things into your life anyway. And if it doesn't feel good, being honest that it doesn't feel good and saying, no, that's not what I need to tell myself, because I need to tell myself that causes me to feel differently about my situation and how I feel. So the importance of self-relationships. We talk about self-judgment such as you are lazy, or I'm being lazy, or I'm being late, or I'm stupid, or I'm fat, like whatever your self-judgments are. What I want you to hear and understand, number one, is that your relationship with yourself is going to be the most important relationship you ever develop in order to grow and scale your business. And the reason why is because God didn't put those dreams or desires in anyone else's heart. He put it in your heart, which means that only you can actually take action to make it happen. You will have angels, you will have encouragers, you will have divine support from other human beings who feel led and called in their hearts to help you and to lift you up. Hear me very clearly on that. However, the actual action piece, which is you taking your inspired action to receive that help, to ask for that help, which can be really hard and really challenging for people to ask for help. Do you realize one of the hardest things ever for me to ask was like ask for help with finances? One of the hardest things for me to ask has been to ask people to help me with marketing, like admitting that you don't know something for whatever reason. It's the ego that wants us to feel like we know it all. We don't need the help. But the truth is, you have an amazing zone of genius, but you can't do it all on your own. So realizing that only you are going to be able to make your dreams come true with the support of those around you means that trusting yourself is going to be the most important thing for you. Because think about in terms of as a business owner, how important it is to, trust. Trust is one of the biggest reasons that relationships disintegrate. So there's three, I don't remember who wrote this. Some amazing woman psychologist wrote a book on relationships, and there was three keys that she gave for why relationships disintegrate, and it's never left my brain, which is trust, control, and recognition. And the trust piece is really, really, really important because especially as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, because when you trust yourself, you're okay if something doesn't go right or if you make a mistake, because you know and trust yourself that you find a way out. When you trust yourself, you're okay with doing new things. You're okay with asking people for help. Like a lot of people are afraid to ask for help and grow and scale a business. They try to grow and scale a business without people, which is disastrous because you just can't. Like you physically don't have enough hours in the day, and there's people who have their own zone of geniuses that are way smarter and more talented than you. So what happens is that if you can't trust other people, usually it's because you've had bad relationships with humans in the past. You don't trust them. But what a lot of people don't even realize is the reason why you don't trust other people is you don't trust yourself to enter into relationships because you've entered into other relationships that are really bad and really terrible and really has to do about self-trust. So I say all this to say that if you have to trust yourself more than anybody else to grow and scale your business, besides God, besides the universe, then not trusting yourself will destroy your growth, destroy your sales, destroy your impact. And one of the biggest reasons why we don't trust ourselves is because the stories that we attach to, the beliefs and ideas we attach to about ourselves, and all of those are based on self-judgments. And these self-judgments are often based on either our own perceptions or what other people tell us. And so let's talk about the idea of being lazy. Here is what's really interesting to me. I was told many times growing up that I was lazy. But the truth is, I wasn't lazy. I just would wait to do things, and we judge ourselves for procrastination. And why did I always procrastinate? Well, now I understand that why we procrastinate is because we just don't want to do something. And if we ask ourselves, why don't we want to do it? It just boils down to certain reasons, which is, you think it's going to take a long time. You think it's going to take too much energy. You think it's going to cost too much money. Like anytime you procrastinate, you're just trying to keep yourself safe from experiencing a perceived negative what if scenario is really all procrastination is. But, when I was being raised, my parents and my family didn't understand psychology. They didn't understand why I behaved the way that I did. They didn't understand how emotions and thought process and paradigms impact decision making and what we choose to do, what we don't choose to do. And because of that, as a parent or as a family member, it's very easy to judge people and make assumptions on their decisions and behaviors, as opposed to asking questions. Hey, I'm curious, why haven't you done your homework yet? I'm curious, why haven't you done this yet? I'm curious, why are we waiting to the last minute? Asking curiously why someone is choosing to behave the way that they do instead of creating judgments. But I remember that I did very good in high school. I did very good in school. I think ranked number 4 in my graduating class, which was a private Christian school. And I graduated number 4 in my class out of 125, 117 people, something of that nature. So I was smart. I am smart. But I didn't study like other family members did. And I remember that there was like jealousy. Like, why do I have to study for 3 hours to get a good grade? And he can study for 30 minutes or an hour and get a really good grade. And there was like this judgment and these ideas and these paradigms that circulated around, like I was lazy and I was bad. And the truth is, like, I could not help the deck of cards that I was given when I was born. And I feel like, too, one of the things that is not helpful in society is this idea that because the deck of cards you're dealt, you can't be successful, which is not true. It is true that everybody has a different deck of cards. It is true that some people have more of a winning hand when they're born than others. I mean, that's the whole idea of what white privilege is. And that's the idea of if you're raised in a very wealthy household, that's what that is. If you have parents that pay for your college, like that's a really awesome deck of cards to be dealt. But what's not helpful is this idea that if you aren't given a winning hand, that you can't be as successful, if not more successful than those people who were given a winning hand. And that is just not helpful for anyone to attach or believe to. And if anything, society, like anything that God loves to do, the universe loves to do, is take people who have been given this quote unquote terrible deck of cards or terrible hand and say, yeah, watch what grace does. Watch what love does. Watch how I take this person and just skyrocket them above everybody else. But what those people have to do is, number one, they have to believe and have faith that they're loved and adored and that there's some power helping them, God. And number two, they have to choose to be differently about themselves and their potential. And number three, they got to make a decision. They got to decide. So knowing all of that, I was taught to believe that I was lazy. And it's so ironic because I remember someone telling me that, oh, well, of course you're lazy because your second toe, so the toe after my big toe, I don't know what you call that toe, is longer than your big toe. And because that toe is longer than your big toe, that means you're lazy. And I was talking to Kelly, and who's my coach. And this was many years ago. And I said, hey, so people say that I'm lazy. I've heard that I'm lazy before, and I feel guilty sometimes for not taking action because I feel like I'm being lazy. And, I remember my family saying that, oh, well, look at your toe, or somebody else said, look at your toe. And if your toe is bigger, then that means you're lazy. She goes, huh, that's so funny. Because I was taught to believe that if your toe was longer, your second toe was longer than your big toe, that means you're nothing but lazy. It's also ironic too, that today I still question on occasion, am I being lazy or do I just need to rest? And everybody tells me, you're so not lazy. Like everybody tells me, reflects back to me, you are the most unlazy person we have ever met. So why am I saying all this? I'm saying all this to you is because I want you to question the stories and ideas and the judgments that you tell yourself that feel true, that are unsupportive, that erode trust in yourself, that are keeping you from building your relationship and trust with yourself so that you can do amazing, badass stuff inside of your business and grow your business in ways that it's never been grown before. That's what I want you to really think about. So I couldn't help it that I didn't have to study as long as other people did in my family, and I still made amazing grades. I couldn't help it. And I wonder how many ideas we attach to about ourselves that are unhelpful because other people told us, and we just attach to it without even questioning it. And the truth is, and this goes back to lazy, there's a difference between laziness and thought and a laziness in action. So, and remember, when you truly believe in something and you make a decision to achieve it, you're going to take action. It's like the whole principle of like faith without works is dead. So if you're not taking action, what you really need to do is you need to ask yourself, why am I not taking action? Why do I not have clarity? Why am I procrastinating, which we talked about in the last episode? Why am I doing these things or not doing these things? And that question will lead you to definitely a mindset piece that needs to be shifted or rearranged. I don't believe anybody is inherently lazy. I believe that we don't take action because we don't believe in ourselves, or we don't believe it's possible for us, or we don't know how to do things, or we have fear-based stories that we're telling ourselves that is not helpful. And so what really helps you not to be lazy in action is to not be lazy in thoughts, which is really, as you grow and scale a business, that is where businesses are really won. Freedom is really grown, is when you change how you think about things over everything else. And then lazy becomes a different meaning. Because here's the thing, when you're being action lazy because your heart keeps saying, you should really do this. You should really do this. You should really do this. And I found that you have to really accept that it's not, I don't know. I guess the definition of lazy is just not helpful or not constructive to believe about yourself at all. I think what's really important to realize is when you feel like you're not taking action and you want to be taking action, there's some kind of mindset shift. And also to realize that sometimes not taking action is not being lazy. What you're really doing is you're getting clarity. Like we talked about in the last episode, you're resting from the action before you take really inspired action. That would be like, an NFL player. I was watching the game yesterday. I actually watched 2 games yesterday. I watched the Cowboys because I'm from Dallas. And then I watched the Kansas City Chiefs because my husband's from Kansas City. So I was watching both those games yesterday. And the players, when they get tired, they go off and they rest. And the whole episode was about rest last week, but I feel like sometimes we call ourselves lazy when we're resting, and resting allows us to take more action. We can't be taking action all the time in our business. We need time to rest. The other thing I want to say is, let's talk about the idea of being late. And this is something that I was always like early, like never late. And recently I have found myself being a few minutes late or needing a little bit more time or grace. And I'm like, why is that? Why has that shifted, which was very different for me? One is, I now believe truly that sometimes if I need a little bit more time, like, it works out for me and it works out for everybody else, which is a hateful way to believe. I also believe that there are certain times when, like, I just cannot be late because it would be like breaking a contractual like agreement or commitment. Here's what I will say about being late. If you admit you're being late, you have two options. You make it a big deal or you make it not a big deal. And I also believe that after a while, you're going to just not want to probably be late. And so you will become more intentional with your time, and you can shift and rearrange that. I think the danger, anytime we judge ourselves or beat ourselves up, is we create these stories and ideas of why we're not a very good person or why there's something wrong with us, which is a separation of love. And anytime you're separating yourself from love, it's just not good in your business. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, rewatch it, re-listen to it, and it will. The other thing I would say is question what appears to be true to you and really give yourself time. Like, if you know that you're normally late, then, change your clock. If you know you're late, you want to honor your agreements and commitments, give the people a different time, and then you will show up on time. Like, there's ways to shift and rearrange it that's supportive of you without judging yourself. It's like, I love Dr. Pepper. I love queso. I love bread. I'm not going to stop eating those things. But I also realize, like, I don't have to eat like a ton of those things. And so one of the things that I do for myself to be healthier while also loving Dr. Pepper and the joy that it brings into my life is I buy the really small cans. So I always feel like there's ways to not judge ourselves, love ourselves, appreciate ourselves, and shift, rearrange our perspective to a way that's really, really good for us. Okay, so let's talk about this idea that sometimes we'll enter into our head that we're not smart enough, or we're not good enough, or we're not talented enough, because that judgment is really harmful when you're growing and scaling a business. So the thing I want to say about this is you're always being developed. You're always growing. This is why you're never satisfied in your business. Anybody who tells you to, how do I say this? There are moments of deep, profound satisfaction in your business, which you really should enjoy those moments. There's profound moments of satisfaction in your life. Like, I was super, super satisfied that first time I became a clown with the greatest show on earth. I was super, super satisfied and excited when I got accepted into film school. Like, there's times in our lives where you feel this profound, incredible, deep satisfaction of like, oh my gosh, yes, this is amazing. It's incredible. And so you want to enjoy that feeling of satisfaction. But what's going to happen is you're going to be satisfied and then you're going to want to grow again. So I say that because you're always going to be meant to grow, there will always be something new to learn, a new skill, new emotional intelligence, new mindset, new paradigms, which is why I created my Born to Slay Mindset Mastermind to begin with, is because the process is so good. You can use it on any level to grow and scale your business, no matter what level you're on. And I just want you all to know that you always have the knowledge and the skills to take the next step. Always. You always have the skills and knowledge to take the next step. And even when you feel like you don't, it can be shown to you and you can do that next step. Whether it's a Google search, whether it is ChatGPT search, which is like the new version of Google, whether that is asking somebody for help, whatever resource God leads you to can be used for your next step. So you always are smart enough. It's kind of like the mindset shift reframe that I tell people who are struggling with ideas and paradigms on social media to reach their sales. However many followers I have is how many I need to reach my next sales. However many followers I have is what I need to reach my next sales. The other thing that really, really I love to talk about is this idea that in the Bible, it talks about how God loves to dumbfound the wise by taking the people that you wouldn't expect to do amazing things. And so anytime you feel like you're not smart enough, you're not good enough, you can't do it, I want to encourage you to say, and that's an amazing blessing because God gets to do it for me. God gets to be this talent for me. God gets to be the smartness for me. God gets to fill in the gaps for me. God gets to do what I can't do. Let yourself out the hook. Use that co-creative power and divine love, divine intelligence to help you instead. Use that as a blessing, not as a curse. And detach from it and remember that it's you and God, not just you doing the things together. The last thing I will say, number 7, is sometimes we feel like it's taking too long. And all I want to say about this is you need to join the Confident Mindset Practices Facebook group because I did a free training on what to do when you feel like it's taking too long, when you're moving too slow, when it's not happening fast enough, because that just does not feel good. You don't want to stay there. And so make sure you join that group for that. Thank you all so much for this incredible podcast episode on redefining laziness and other judgments. And remember to drown those judgments in queso. I love you. Make sure you follow me at Brandon R. Foster on Instagram. My stories are amazing. And subscribe to YouTube. I love you. Have an incredible day. I will see you next week. Listening to Confident AF Live, taking your mindset next level to get next year's results today with host Brandon Foster on transformationtalkradio.com. Listen or watch live every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, where I help badasses like you with big dreams learn to take their impact and results next level, turning those unrealistic goals into reality. Confident AF Live is the gateway to enormous new opportunities and unlimited possibilities. For more information, get in touch with me, Brandon, at BrandonRFoster.com.